Thanks for listening to the Old Pueblo New Economy podcast with Aaron Eden, Julie Bonner, and Nick Morin. Each episode, we showcase the diverse entrepreneurs and leaders driving growth in the desert we call home. I'm your host, Julie Bonner, for this creative community episode. I'm an artist, designer, and marketing director, and I'm speaking with creative entrepreneurs right here in Arizona. My goal is that you can apply some of these lessons learned into your own best practices. Let's turn up the creativity.
Community Investment Corps, located in Tucson and serving southern Arizona, empowers small business owners with knowledge and access to capital. CIC believes in economic inclusion and supports entrepreneurs and small business owners at all stages with the practical resources and education they need to thrive and turn dreams to reality. CIC is a proud founding sponsor of this podcast.
Tucson is so lucky to have Mike Peel back in town. His passion for the community, sustainability, and development continues today with his new role as the Statewide Sustainability Director for Local First Arizona. Learn about the challenges he faced when he was a development director for Uncommon Good and how he learned new ways to raise funds for a green economy. You'll feel inspired by his energy for a more local and sustainable economy in Tucson, and you'll hear ways that you can get involved. Please enjoy this conversation with Mike Peel. I'm so excited to introduce Mike Peel, the Statewide Sustainability Director for Local First Arizona. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. Tell the viewers or listeners more about your background.
So my background, I'm a native Tucsonan, proud to be from Tucson, and I have a background with nonprofits, extensively working with nonprofit development. I've been working with nonprofit development since my college days when I went to Claremont McKenna in California. I started a nonprofit consulting organization with my friend. Out of our dorm room, we were working on these plans and figuring out how to create a team-based approach to supporting nonprofits and expanding their capacity. And it was called, at the time, Source, and it's still standing today. It's actually grown since the days that we started it and founded it.
That's amazing.
It was a brand new idea at the time, and we didn't know it would take off the way it now is the most sought after opportunity on campus, it seems like, from what I'm reading and finding out about it. So it's really exciting to see that it's so much a long-standing organization 15 years later.
That's amazing. What were some of those challenges that the nonprofits were having, and then what were like the solutions you guys were you're bringing to them?
Actually, challenges that we're still seeing today, even probably more so now, especially lately. We were finding that there were challenges around volunteer recruitment needs, around grant research and writing additional support and capacity, and in addition around anything with web development and ensuring that there would be better website development for the team. So a lot of these nonprofits are just working off of very little in terms of resources and staff time, and it's not enough to do all that they need to do to meet their mission. So we added the expertise of the Kravis Leadership Institute, and then we had the students get hired by the Kravis Leadership Institute on campus to then be teams and work on these problems and find solutions.
Wow, that's amazing. And you were in college doing this?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was my first foray into entrepreneurship.
Holy cow.
And I learned a lot. Actually, I think I learned the most from that experience, even more than from my classes, which were excellent. But
yeah, I
learned so much from getting out there and being in the LA region doing this work, and particularly the region that we were in, which is the greater LA region for the colleges. It's harder hit with poverty. And so we learned a lot, and we applied it, and we had to try a lot early on and see what might work, what might not. It was definitely a trial and error process, but as is entrepreneurship, you have to be okay to fail. You have to be okay with that.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. And also I can't imagine, I played tennis for college, which there's a little bit of time management, but I mean, running a organization like you were, I'm sure there was a lot of time management involved with your classes. And you know.
Yeah, definitely. And my co-founder friend and I both were running too. We were on the cross country and track team together. So
Oh
we
my
would get
gosh.
up earlier than we would have liked, I think, otherwise. And
Wow.
we would get early. And then I think that got us into that habit, was sticking with a schedule like that.
Good
Not
habits.
always easy.
Yeah.
Not always uh, as regular as we'd like it to be, because it's college, right? But
Yes.
and I think we learned a lot from having more of a schedule on getting that together and sticking with it. We just had to keep trying different approaches. We had to be consistent about it, and sometimes it was not going anywhere, and then sometimes it was, and then by the time we were 2 years into it, by our senior years, it really took off. But I think it was because we were experimenting with different approaches,
Mm.
and it was iterative.
Wow, that's cool. And I think a lot can be said for like the athletics too, kind of having that focus and passion, and like you said, like the just sticking with something every day and prioritizing certain things.
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
makes sense. And wait, tell me about, you told me there was a record you broke one time. It was in Tucson. Was this when you were in high
Yeah, on the
school?
Randolph course. I got the record back in 2002, my senior year of cross country, where the Repark Randolph course there,
That's
which I
awesome.
think is still the same course they run. So that was really exciting to do that work in high school. I had a lot of fun with it in high school. I started off as well, attempting to be a sprinter. It didn't go anywhere. Then I realized that I could run laps upon laps upon laps, and I got recruited for cross country with the understanding that I was just going to try it and see, and then it actually worked out.
That's so cool. So ideally, you like, what would be your favorite distance anyway? Like if you could pick your favorite distance,
5K, I really like the
you
5K.
like the 5K. That's cool.
Yeah, it's the right amount of miles for me to excel. I
Yeah.
love running around that loop.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
that that loop around Randolph is the best. I've been doing that for a long time.
That's really nice. I did the Sun Run beginning of this year, and I did pretty well for my age group. It's just such a nice course, and I don't know. And then plus, and I actually live right near the loop, like the loop, and that's
Oh
such a
yeah.
nice place too to run and cycle and do all those things.
Oh, it's so great.
So then, what from college? Where did you go?
So from college, I stayed in the region, in the Inland Empire region, the greater LA area. And I was working on nonprofit development work right out of college. Actually, it was a continuation of my work with Source at Claremont McKenna. One of the nonprofits that we worked with for getting the consulting support for Source to be provided was a nonprofit, Uncommon Good, that offered me a job right out of college as a development director for the nonprofit. Their development director was retiring, and it was quite an honor to be offered that right out of college. It was a big learning curve to learn about development in a much deeper way than I was doing in college, but it was definitely a continuation of what I was doing, so I was up for the challenge. And then that was right before 2008 and the
Okay.
economic downturn crisis, and that was where we were finding as a nonprofit that we didn't know what to do with the crash. We were aware of different foundational challenges going on. The foundations were very challenged, and some were closing. So we were thinking about going in a totally different direction, and we just stayed with that. And we stuck with the idea of doing something very different. The nonprofit's mission had been primarily focused on supporting low-income youth and families through education and mentoring, and also repayments for doctors and lawyers who are working in free clinics and doing pro bono work. So helping those lawyers and doctors support those families in lower income communities. So there were these great programs that were already in place, but it was clear that the job training piece needed to be increased, and the parents needed to be supported more with the economic crisis at hand in 2008. So we went ahead and continued on that path to build a path for green jobs and urban agriculture jobs, and a project that was the first whole earth building utilizing earth bags as the super adobe method. And we created a green community center called the Whole Earth Building. And it took us a while to do with the economic crisis, but we were able to get through it and just stick with it. And we were able to get a lot of donors and funders on board with it.
And this is in California then?
This is in California,
building?
Claremont, California.
Oh, Claremont. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm so impressed too. What a great job right out of college. Number one, that sounds like an awesome opportunity, but then dealing with like the times of around 2008 and what do you do during that time? And it sounds like you guys picked, or you said you changed kind of your direction a little bit to support, it sounds like to support also the parents and focusing on more like green efforts. Yeah,
green job training and workforce development from the standpoint of collaborating with the community college out there. And we were able to obtain stimulus funding for green jobs around energy efficiency, retrofits of homes, and learning how to certify homes so the families and clients that we served could be able to get those trainings at no cost. They could get certified through BPI and HERS, and started to better understand green buildings and what the green economy could look like at that point. That was back in 2009, right after the crash.
Whoa, okay. So then from there to getting back to Arizona and like local first, how did that happen?
So I spent about 6 years. Yeah, it was 6 years working on the green jobs training efforts and learning all about how to fundraise in a time when the traditional methods were not working. And so I learned a lot. And it was interesting because the first year was more of the standard way of raising funds, and those foundations were able to provide grants the way they traditionally were to the organization. And then that all bets were off. So I spent 5 years learning new ways to raise funds, and I was determined to see through that project, that whole earth building project. So by the time that got built, including getting community volunteers involved in that and building it as a community barn raising effort, it felt like I was ready to get back to Tucson. Well, my wife, Cassie, she was getting her master's in social work at the time, and that was all happening at the same time. And once she completed her master's, she wanted to get her PhD, and she wanted to get it at the U of A, and she got accepted. And I was all for going back to Tucson. I didn't know when, but I knew I wanted to. And having completed that project, the timing seemed ideal, and we made the move. I didn't have a job, but I knew I'd find a way to make it work.
That's so funny.
Especially because we were pursuing her educational dream, and we really both believed it was the right way to go.
You guys sound like I know both of you, and you're good partners and supportive. And when I moved out here from the East Coast, actually, I didn't have a job yet either. And
okay, so you can relate. But I wasn't concerned about it. I didn't know if it would be an ideal job or anything, but I just figured I'd be in my hometown, and if one of us has got the path figured out for now, then the other will. Yeah. And you're obviously super self-motivated. So that works in your favor. Oh, thanks. Well, it was more challenging than I thought it was going to be. There were no green jobs. I was wanting to go in a potential nonprofit and development route still, but I wanted it to be an evolution of what I had been doing at Uncommon Good to be green job based. And there really were none out there. I was surprised back in 2013 that there really weren't that many. And so I ended up getting a job with Pima Community College with government relations, because I had that background as well with my time at Claremont McKenna. It's a government focused school, and it's a liberal arts college, but focused on government and known for government. It's known for sending a lot of people to DC and to work on the Hill. And so I actually spent a semester in DC while I was there, and learned about the lobbying world, what I don't want to do with my life.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot by working for a bipartisan lobbying firm for that time back in 2006. And even though I swore not to do that work, I ended up getting recruited for it at Pima Community College to be their lobbyist, one of their lobbyists. Not initially. I started as a government relations analyst, and then ended up evolving that role over the years to be community and government relations liaison.
Okay.
And then a lobbyist as well with the state work, with advocating for the college and its funding. It was right around the time that the college's funding got zeroed out, the first state to zero out community college funding. So I wound up there at a very challenging time. There seems to be a trend with my jobs. No. Interesting in terms of being one of the most challenging times to enter into jobs. It seems like I find myself in those places. I started Uncommon Good right when the economic crash happened. I started Pima Community College right when the zeroing of their funding occurred. So it's like learning how to be a firefighter in a way, or I think action oriented is the way to frame it. You just have to jump in and figure it out, because the fire's burning, and what are you going to do? You just got to figure it out. I think that a lot of people are in that place right now.
Oh yeah. And there's some things we can control, and then there's these other things like you're mentioning that are out of your control, bigger picture things that are happening, and you have to figure out how to keep moving forward, or like you pivoted, or whatever, to keep going.
Right. Exactly. Pivot or reinvent completely if need be.
Or that.
Yeah. Like we did at Uncommon Good. So I did that work at Pima Community College for about 3 years. And then I was able to do some green job work there that I found really motivating, because the college had no green job community efforts going on. And I thought it was really a good opportunity to start to pilot around working with the EPA, and got the college signed up for one of 3 community colleges to pilot green job training for students. And so that went really well. And that's where it was clear to me that I could keep going with it. It was a thread that ran through my career.
Right.
In some ways.
And
then
Local
First Arizona opened up, and my passion. And I saw that Local First Arizona had a role for Southern Arizona Director, and I didn't hesitate for a second to go for that job, because I knew so much about their background with sustainability. And I had just started a Tucson 2030 district effort to be one of the first cities in the U.S. to the first in Arizona, and one of 22 cities in the U.S. to form a district to reduce carbon emissions in an area of the city by 50% by the year 2030 with energy, water, and transportation emissions. So I was meeting all these leaders in the community through my work and through my volunteer experience with the U.S. Green Building Council. I kept that going from California to Tucson. And so I was meeting all these great leaders, and it was all starting to come together. And I saw Local First was a leader in that space, and I thought it would be a great next step.
That's awesome.
And it has been.
Yes. And that's how I first met you.
Yes.
When you started at Local First Arizona. So could you first, I guess, tell everyone really what Local First Arizona is and what it's about?
So yes, Local First Arizona is really a community development organization, I like to say. We're a local business focused coalition, and actually the largest coalition in the U.S. of local businesses, with about 3,000 local businesses in our network. So it's exciting to be part of a movement that Kimber Lanning started back in over 15 years ago in the Phoenix area at Roosevelt Row. And they're really fighting for local businesses to be supported more by the local government, and for the tax incentives not to go to the chains, but to be provided to those who are creating significant economic development in the local community, and that are retaining more dollars in our community. And we're all about making that known, that the power of local is voting with your dollars. Mm-hmm. There's such a multiplier effect when local businesses are supported, and they in turn are supporting other local businesses, and more of those dollars stay here and they're not going to some headquarters outside of Arizona or outside of Tucson. And that's what we're about. We're about the localism movement.
As a Local First Arizona member, I always, if people don't know what it is, I always say, it's supporting local Arizona businesses. And I'm like, how can you not get behind that? And also just from my perspective, the benefits of being a member, just connecting with other people, other business owners that care, that love Arizona, that want to stay in Arizona, that want to see it grow. It's just such a positive thing to be a part of. And it not only it's helped my small business, but also, like you're saying, how when you spend locally, that helps your local economy. It's true. It shifts your mindset. So when you're deciding like, hey, I'm hungry, I want to go eat, or like, well, we're going to go to a local restaurant. And it really has changed. And I thought I was pretty aware of some of this, but really from being involved with Local First Arizona, it helps my decisions on a daily basis without even realizing it. And then in the end, it's a win-win for our whole community and state.
I'm so glad to hear you frame it that way. And I'm hearing it a lot in the community now. It doesn't matter where you spend it, as long as you spend it local is a phrase I'm seeing out there a lot. And I'm so happy to see that more people are thinking about it now. And I think that it's been a progression of more people getting involved and telling their friends and their family members. And I think it is a ripple effect. And I think we started it years ago, and I think it's really taken hold more over the years. And I think that's the whole point of it. Localism is about community building. And I think that Tucson and Arizona, we really take a lot of pride in our local business community. That's something I missed being in California for, it ended up being over 10 years. I missed that about the focus on unique placemaking, which is what we're also about. And Tucson to me is all about placemaking. I didn't find that a lot of California had that feel. There were pockets, but Tucson really has it all around. And I think Arizona does too. And I think that a lot of communities need to prioritize placemaking more and prioritizing their local businesses, because they could lose that cultural identity if they don't. And we're, I think, challenged by that even now in Tucson, that we're not immune to it going away. You have to work for it. You have to support those local businesses and the community to ensure that they can stay open. It's not guaranteed that that identity stays. Like 4th Avenue is not guaranteed to stay that way. We're going to fight hard for it, and we have been. But the introduction of new developments definitely could endanger that identity of this historic district. And,
I was thinking the same exact thing. Pop Cycle is one of my friends, and Splash, they're one of my retailers for my $1,000 flashcards. And, they're so integral in the 4th Ave Merchant Association and the efforts that you all are doing to protect like the historic, like small business, unique shops and feel and restaurants that we have on, 4th Ave. And that's so Tucson, and we need to preserve that feel.
That's it. That's exactly Tucson. And I think it's the heart of Tucson. And the 4th Avenue district and the South Tucson district, that whole 4th Avenue from the top by Time Market all the way south to South Tucson. From north to south, it's amazing to see how far it stretches with unique businesses. And I think that we need to spend more time as a community there and thinking through how we can also have more spaces like that throughout our communities. I think that we need to see where we can create more adaptive reuse efforts. I know the city of Tucson has a pilot program for that, so it can be affordable for business owners to be utilizing older spaces and make them really happening districts. And I think that's possible. That policy does drive a lot of this. And I hope we do more there.
Oh, it's awesome. And then tell me about, so that was about Local First, and now tell me more about the Southern Arizona Green Business Alliance. With my new role, I'm now the Statewide Sustainability Director. It's grown, it's evolved from Southern Arizona Director. And I'm still based in Tucson, but now focusing on programs that we started a few years ago to support businesses
to increase their planning with sustainability so they can save more money with their operations. But more so now, it's about differentiating their models to support the businesses to be more resilient. So the Alliance is about gathering partners together to be working together with the other environmental organizations out there, with the local governments and the departments like Tucson Water and the Department of Transportation and Mobility and the local utilities and Pima Association of Governments, and it's bringing all of the partners together in the space of sustainability, including the mayor's office. Mayor Romero's prioritized sustainability for a long time and is prioritizing it even more now. So bringing that all together and being more of a hub for all the resources and incentives and ways to collaborate and enhance each other's efforts so that we have more to offer the local business and nonprofit community to be more sustainable and more resilient.
Wow. So it's a big, like the word alliance, of getting everyone together. Is that hard? Is that challenging to kind of get everyone together, or like, how has it been so far? So far,
it's been a mobilizing effort. I think because the challenges are so immense right now, I think that there's an interest in looking at alternative economic development routes. And it's something that's been proven in other countries that the green investments pay off. And here too, but I think not as much as in other countries where there's substantial green investments. And the longer term payback, the return on investment, is significant, but the short term potentially can be as well, depending on how we structure the loans and the incentives and the grants out there. It does cost more oftentimes to invest in sustainability, but then the payoff is much greater. And especially if we're looking at it about, and I think this is what is mobilizing everybody, if we look at it about getting more employees to be engaged in the process, including looking at employee-owned cooperative models and worker-owned cooperative models, and having more of that green team type of approach that Mrs. Green's World has been doing for years.
Yes.
That brings more, I think, creativity to the workplace and more buy-in to think through creative solutions, and then more customers, I think, getting attracted to those businesses doing good work in the community. Because I think when I talk about sustainability and resiliency, what I'm really getting at is a more of a community-oriented process where we're thinking about certainly the profitability of these businesses and organizations, but also just as much, if not more so, the people and prioritizing people and the planet and ensuring that there's a greater community benefit to the work going on so that the communities can thrive. And I think that when we think about GDP as a society, it can also include health. It can also include the environment. And that's not how we define it currently, but there are studies out there and economists out there who are wanting to redefine how we define economic development.
Right. And it's not so siloed, or all these things affect everything affects something else. And it's part of, it sounds like, the bigger picture. How does like a business or someone get involved with the Southern Arizona Green Business Alliance?
So for the Southern Arizona Green Business Alliance, anyone can get involved, whether it be through our programs and signing up for them. We have a Green Leader certification program. We have more advanced programs, like a Scale Up program that is a planning program we started a few years ago to provide access to a revolving loan fund with our partner Community Investment Corporation, and to continue on with any ideas you come up with as a business or a nonprofit through the certification program to expand on those ideas and implement them and get the financing to do so. And then we have an advanced program, even more advanced, through the Tucson 2030 district that is called the Green Champion program. And that's motivating individuals to keep going to get more incentives to meet those 2030 district goals of 50% reductions in energy, water, and transportation emissions by the year 2030. So what we effectively have are 3 levels.
Yeah.
We have a foundational Green Leader certification to get started. We have a intermediate program with Scale Up for the local businesses to get more support for their projects to get them implemented. And then we have an advanced support program for benchmarking your utility bills and continuing on, and just really making it a cultural part of the workplace, that it's a culture of sustainability is what we like to say.
That's
So
awesome.
anybody can get involved with our programs. And even if you're not a local business, the Tucson 2030 district can serve the non-local businesses. That's the way we've structured the alliance. It's co-led by the 2030 district and Local First Arizona.
That's awesome.
And then there are partnership opportunities. If there's interest from the community to be part of our steering committee, we're interested to work with those who want to spend more time on it and have creative ideas for us to consider. So it is really about breaking those silos down, as you mentioned earlier. We want to avoid silos, and we want to find a way to connect the dots better so we have a greener economy.
That sounds amazing. And I hope people can check out Local First Arizona's website. And then there's probably a separate, or there's maybe a page or something linked to all of this, right?
It is on our sustainability page, or if you just directly want to get the Southern Arizona Green Business Alliance information, you can go to www.sazgba.com.
Oh, that's super sweet.
Yeah, that's brand new. It just got released.
Who, for you personally, is like a thought leader or someone that you kind of look up to for inspiration?
There are a few. I'm particularly following on a regular basis Paul Hawking and Naomi Klein, Van Jones. And those are 3 that I think are doing some powerful work around the green economy and around green jobs, and about also centering equity and diversity and inclusion with this work, which is a priority for us and that we want to keep building within the Southern Arizona Green Business Alliance. And also it's a major priority of Local First Arizona as well.
Yeah.
So those are thought leaders that I'm following consistently. And there's also the Democracy Collaborative and the Institute for Local Self-Reliance that I'm consistently going back to, because those resources they share are really the foundation of what Local First is all about, whether it be sustainability or localism or resiliency or new economy models, I like to say.
Right.
It's all there. And they've been consistently putting out hand books and guides and all these resources on how to get there. And it's not easy to get there, but there are already a lot of resources on how to get to an economy that's more localized and prioritizes more local procurement and prioritizes more of a local sourcing approach, so that there's more of a system in place with local governments prioritizing where their spending goes and where their contracts go, and then of course everything we just talked about as well. It takes every part of the economy to be involved to make it something that's fully realized.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. And then are there any other, I guess, do you listen to podcasts or any other books that you would recommend to someone that's interested in these topics?
I highly recommend Drawdown. It's a compendium of all of these strategies that we should be considering for a green economy, and they're prioritized by the impact that they can have on reducing carbon emissions. And so what I love about it is it's all about the achievement of the goals. It's not just that we can do all these different efforts with sustainability, but it's about actually getting to the strategies that are going to have the greatest impact. And I think we need to start doing more of that now than we have before, because we're at a point where if we're not acting faster in climate action, our communities are going to face very negative effects soon. And so we need to think about, especially in Arizona, the reality of extreme heat and our water challenges. So I think we need to prioritize based on impact more than just going about everything that we can, which is important to foster sustainability actions. I'm all for it, but I think we need to also incentivize more, and I want to do this through Scale Up, projects that have a greater impact, like those 2030 district goals. And I found Drawdown is a book that has inspired me to think bigger and to think about greater impact.
That's awesome. Thanks for the recommendation. And
and NPR, I love NPR and their blogs and podcasts, and constantly going back to NPR.
Well, and many of us are home right now too, and I feel like it's kind of the perfect time to catch up on some just like more learning, really.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many that I'm discovering too that I'm starting to follow on to more, particularly around racial equity. And as an organization right now, we're taking up a 21-day racial equity challenge and digging into more blogs and more podcasts and readings and going further with it than we've ever done as an organization. We know we can do more and we will do more. So I'm inspired and excited to see so much interest to read more and raise our awareness across the community.
That's super awesome. And what is something challenging like about your position, or what's one of the challenges you face?
I think a big challenge is the politics of sustainability, the politics of doing this kind of new economy work. It can be challenging when I think there's an expectation with some leaders, and I'll say too many leaders in our society, to go about business as usual rather than think about it in a different way and be okay with the unknown in some ways. Some of the work we're talking about is needing time to develop. And it's that long-term thinking that needs to be, I think, in place more with leaders than just the short-term gains that they can point to. And yes, you need both, but the short-term gains can, I think, can be deceiving, because then what happens 2 to 3 years out, and is it really sustainable? And meaning from an economic standpoint, is it sustainable?
Right.
So I think that there needs to be more long-term thinking around that it may take a year to realize the ROI. It may take 2 years, but maybe it's greater ROI as a result. And I'm actually working with some colleagues on a study to demonstrate the greater impact that sustainability investments and a sustainable economy, a green economy, can have for the community as a whole. In comparing and contrasting with like the GEM show, which of course is a big economic driver, but what if there were investments that could be done with energy efficiency, for example, that would be far greater than any GEM show could realize.
Oh, it's really cool.
Yeah. And then, not to say the GEM show shouldn't happen. We love the GEM show.
Yeah.
It's the point that there could be both and I think that's really important. I hope we see more leaders elected in the future who are willing to challenge the status quo.
Yeah. Well, and you can see how, some with more traditional ways of doing things, like if it's something disruptive or new, or you say it could take longer, it's like, people's initial reaction. But I think sounds like you guys are doing a good job of trying to explain the value of like making those commitments and investments and like more of the long-term picture. And it's funny, my background is also in branding, and in branding there isn't always an ROI. Like you can't point to
sure.
like, it made you this much money. It's this big picture idea of how you're perceived. So I feel like I really like where you're going though with that, and helping just people understand. It sounds like it's an education to people.
Very aligned there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlap with what you're talking about and what I'm talking about. And it's exciting to me to see that's happening in other countries though, because it's a way to point to a way forward. And
who's doing it really well? Like what's a country or city or something that you look to as kind of, where to go?
I think Sweden's doing some things really out of the box with financing with sustainability that I think we can learn a lot from. And I think there's some great work going on with our current crisis in that there are countries wanting to rethink how to utilize recovery investments and funding to be also tied to sustainability. So like, Italy is doing that right now, and I think that's great. And South Korea, and I think all of that is to me it's very encouraging, and it's encouraging to me that whether it be around wanting to learn more about and needing to learn more about racial equity as a society or sustainability and all of it, there seems to be an awakening going on that there's a lot to learn, and we don't have to just rely on the old ways of doing things as the only ways, and clearly we shouldn't. But I think people are recognizing that there's a need to be going a new direction, and it's okay to be uncomfortable. And I think we have to be uncomfortable with some unknowns. There aren't easy answers to these topics.
Big picture things.
But then maybe the easy answers are the problem too. That's what I'm getting at. Maybe we don't need easy answers. We need to have better questions. And I love the way that we have, as a coalition, as the Alliance, come up with, I think, a very collective approach to, for example, the Green Leader Certification Program. It's designed to get businesses and nonprofits connected more to the partners in our community, so that there's more of a connection made with the rebates at the utility. There's more of a connection made with the local municipalities and their programs, so that we're not having to create something new where we don't need to. We can link with it, but then we also can create new efforts where there's gaps. And so I think we're figuring that out as a collective group. And then we also have this, I think one of the best parts about the checklist is I think an innovative approach to it, where there's an additional action that can get suggested from the 65-point checklist, which is focused on energy and water and transportation and resiliency topics like equity and environmental justice. All of that's in there.
Wow.
But we've put a lot of time into the 65-point checklist. I think we've done something really special with it as is, but we have a section that's an additional action where the community can suggest an action. And I think that has a lot of potential. I believe that there's a lot out there that just hasn't been made aware more to the greater community within our own networks, that we may just not fully know until we start to hear from our network that this is working. We just need more support for it. Like, for example, cooperatives. I know there's a big movement that we're involved in, the Tucson Cooperative Network, that I'm hopeful we can support more and be more involved with. And I think we should see more worker cooperatives out there. There's a lot of studies out there that show that the benefits are significant long term with models like worker co-ops.
Wow. It's a lot. There's a lot going on, but it's exciting to hear that there's people like you and Local First and the Southern Arizona Green Business Alliance that are working hard on these things that will benefit, us all, and that feels good. And especially in a time where there's some tough things going on in the world, like these are some hopeful concepts,
That's the goal. We want to instill hope. I've been finding we're getting a lot of media coverage with the Southern Arizona Green Business Alliance and the programs and the Green Leaders launch with the certification, and the media coverage that we're getting, I think, is a result of it being a very positive story. One way that we are framing it is it's a way to be meeting the needs of these businesses right now by being proactive and adaptive. We want to change the programs as needed based on the current needs. Like, for example, reopening of the businesses right now.
Yeah.
There's talk about how we can now get some sustainability measures involved with the assessment of the safety measures, so that as a business is considering how to be as safe as possible with the reopening and the the assessment there, they might as well consider some smaller energy and water measures that would be cost savings as well.
That makes sense.
So why not link it? If there's going to be a reimagining or a retooling of the business to reopen, that's a great time to do something then wait for it later when you're not going to have the time as much to do it.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah,
Well,
and I'm thankful to our partner EcoBlue, who's stepping up to think about different ways of assessing for safety and sustainability simultaneously.
oh, very cool. Nice. Well, we're almost about out of time. So how would you like listeners to connect with you and also Local First Arizona?
For me, connect with me by emailing me is always the best way through my email, mike@localfirstaz.com. That's localfirstaz.com. And then the websites have a ton of information, localfirstaz.com, and then sazgba.com. That's the Southern Arizona Green Business Alliance website that's now newly launched.
Cool.
And then we have a lot of social media information out there through Local First that I highly recommend following. We're out there daily putting content out and making it as relevant as possible. We're very responsive to our community, and that means a statewide community. We're working as a statewide team more than we ever have before. And because we are being more virtual in our efforts for maximizing safety, we're finding ways to be even more connected as a statewide team and sharing the latest news as fast as we get it and sharing it out as fast as we can.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today and speaking with me and then our listeners.
I'm so glad to. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening today. This was an educational conversation with Mike Peel. The key lessons that stand out include being action-oriented. Twice in Mike's career, he started a new position right as there were larger economic challenges happening. At Uncommon Good, he had to figure out new ways to fundraise during the crashing American economy. At Pima Community College, he began right when community college funding was being zeroed out. I can't imagine these experiences in a new role, but Mike said he learned how to be action-oriented by just jumping in and figuring it out. While at Pima Community College, he brought his passion of doing green work to the college and started piloting working with the EPA to provide training for students. Number 2, long-term thinking. Mike believes in long-term thinking and hopes that more leaders will too. He said too many leaders want to do business as usual and point to the short-term gains rather than thinking about it in a different and long-term way. Yes, you need both, but those short-term gains can be deceiving, and will it really be sustainable after 2 to 3 years? Lastly, sustainability. We talked a lot about this. Mike realizes the value of creating a sustainable and green economy. To quote Mike, "When I talk about sustainability and resiliency, what I'm really talking about is a more community-oriented process. We're not only thinking about the profitability of these businesses, but more so prioritizing the people and ensuring that there's a greater community benefit going on so communities can thrive."